Okay, now for the news. Hey guys, this is David Vos. I gotta read you something here. Yeah, I think this is NBC. The Peacock. It says, I kid you not, an Ohio teacher told the principal that using students' preferred pronouns violated her religion. Okay. Now, if you're not sure what we're saying here, don't worry about it. They didn't know what they were saying when they wrote this. But let me translate just that one sentence we just spoke. There was a teacher in Ohio, and she was sitting there just minding her own business. You know, she's a grammar English teacher or something. And these little kids, the little punks, you know, they came in, waltzed in there one day, and they said, "Oh, by the way, I'm no longer a boy, and this is no longer a girl. From now on, we want to be known as pigs and and horses, okay? So from now on, you will refer to me as Dolly the pig and Waldo the horse. And if you don't do that, and by the way, we're not her or him, we're an it." And the teacher said, "Well, of course I can't do that because I'm the elder and you're a child, and I'm supposed to be teaching you what is right and wrong, what is grammar, and that's not grammar." I mean, that's actually her job. She was a grammar English, I don't know, what do you call that? An English teacher? So, as an English grammar school teacher, she couldn't follow the directions of the principal, who took the side of these two punks that decided to waltz in there and pull off some kind of charade. Of course, you know, it wasn't these kids, right? It was probably some ACLU or Black Lives Matters, or maybe Mr. Biden got on the phone and Kamala Harris and instructed these two kids to pull this thing off, and then they brought the news agency down there and promptly arrested her or something, you know? Oh, and by the way, this is crazy. So the school that we're talking about, it's the Jackson Memorial Middle School. It's in Ohio. And wouldn't you know it, but this particular school has had one of these incidents, shall we say. A 7th grade student in Ohio is dead after he himself in the bathroom at the Memorial Middle School in Jackson Township, Ohio. So it seems like this particular school has had a couple run-ins before or something of that nature, and it may be ground zero for the mind control programming that's going on in the country. Well, of course, there are several locations. You know, remember Sandy Hook? We can't say anymore. But, you know, these guys with a little suit and tie come out, and they got a little microphone. They interview the children, put them all on exhibition, and then they run it, right, on CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox News, and it's like months of just interviewing children and sobbing mothers, and you know, and we've got to do something. We've got to make more laws, and we've got to take away the Constitution. Of course, we can't have that anymore because, after all, we're staging events that proves that that's not, you know, a good idea. It's incomprehensible to me that they're getting away with this. Nobody's checking on what these guys are doing, right? Except us over here on this little channel that's about to go boop, you know. Thank goodness we're on Rumble now. But, you know, as far as that goes, I don't know if that's a good idea either, because you guys start watching over there on, I can't put it on TikTok or anything like that. Go over there and I don't make anything from that. And instead we like, I already watched it on TikTok. I ain't going to watch it on YouTube. So, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. But I'm getting myself, you know, on these other platforms. I really do appreciate that you guys went, and some of you, and what would you say, followed me over there, because they're probably going to come a point here when they won't, when I won't be here. So you'll know where I'm at. But guys, this is just a mind stumper. Or should I say it's an eye opener, right? Now we know what they're really doing. And I haven't said nothing, but you know what I'm saying, don't you? Because we really can't say anything unless we don't say anything. But this is what's going on. So she was forced to resign, the lawsuit says. So it says a former Ohio middle school teacher says she was forced to resign. Now, if I'd have been her, I wouldn't have resigned. I would have made them fire me, okay? But after she told her boss, notice that they never named the superintendent or anybody, except they always, in this article written by NBC, they make sure that they keep saying the teacher's name that got fired. They keep putting her name in the article. Maybe they put her address in there and everything, and where she lives and how to get rid of the person, right? Maybe she'll be a target now. I don't know. But it was a former Ohio middle school teacher said she was forced to resign after she told her boss that she would not address students by their preferred pronouns. Notice that they write it that way. Preferred pronouns, like, how dare you not refer to them as their preferred pronouns? And somehow or another that's supposed to make us think that somehow that she's a bad person. But what they really should be writing here is that these two punks decided that they were going to play a prank on the teacher, and they no longer will abide by the authority. I mean, look, it's not even the kids that won't even obey their elders or have respect for those in a position of authority. Forget that, right? That's important. But even the school that it's kind of like the government of the United States, that we're supposed to be representing the people. But no, they're up there making laws and ruling over us. And at the same time demanding that you've got to be democracy. What is a democracy? Isn't that where the people get to decide? Well, a majority, like two wolves and a lamb deciding what they're going to have for dinner, right? That's what democracy is. But anyway, I digress. So we've got a school that has your children and my children, well, not mine anymore, but the children of the community go to this school. Now, as far as I know, we still, as parents, are required to feed our children. We're required to raise our own children, decide what they're going to wear that day, what they're going to eat that day, and we, because we love our children, we want them to be educated, so we choose to send them to school. Well, it's no longer that way. You literally have absolutely no choice. Okay? They just come and demand that you take your kids to this propaganda building where they just feed your kid full of not just propaganda, because if that's all they were doing, they're in there trying to teach these kids that Biden's a wonderful man and he's the president of the United States, but Biden doesn't even know what his name is, right? And, we've got to teach the kids about this democracy. There's two wolves and a lamb. They're trying to decide what to have for dinner. So we should all be a democracy. So that way the lamb gets to be eaten fairly, right? Under the guise of law. Actually, if you wanted to have a government should be there to protect the lamb instead of, giving the rights to these two wolves. But you see, we're never taught that. This country was never even a democracy. It's a republic. Yeah. And we send our representatives. And you're not supposed to be allowed to change the laws or even to make laws. Under the Constitution, they're not allowed to make any law other than what we ask them to do. And it's only to be in rare circumstances, because we don't need to make new laws every day. Oh, and now, let's see, it's Tuesday. We need to make a few more laws here. We just got to keep putting out these new laws, right? And having new bills and all this stuff, because life changes so drastically every day that, somehow or another, this big crisis. We've got all these old geezers running up to this Capitol building. Oh, they're just desperate. They got to make more laws. Like we need more money. Well, you only have so much money. Well, we'll make a law that says we've got more money, and then we'll go give it to the Ukrainians. Oh, okay. What about you poor peasants out here that live in the country? Well, we're going to restrict you, take your kids and start doing operations on them against your will. You don't have any rights, right? No rights whatsoever over your kids. I mean, they give you all the rights that they don't mind that you have. Like, you got to take care of them and put up with them from, morning till night. You got to provide a home, therefore you must go to work because they need you to be a slave. All the stuff that they want you to do. But when it comes to actually what you're going to teach your kids and what they're going to believe and stuff, no, that's not up to you. All right. So for thousands of years, boys are boys and girls are girls, and this is just normal. Now all of a sudden, these two punks waltz in there and they're like, no, I'm a monkey today. And you being a grammar English teacher, you know what is proper English, right? But no, you can't speak with proper English. Remember when we used to go to school and they would teach you what pronouns were? Well, all of a sudden, this English teacher is told that she's not allowed to teach English anymore. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Not only can she not teach English anymore, they want her now to go and lie to some spoiled, rotten brats. They're going to be allowed to come in and dress up like little boys when they're girls. And the little boys are allowed now, by law, to go into the girls' bathroom and, hey, they can have sex on the floor. They're 4 years old, they're having sex on the floor, but you're not allowed to stifle their creativity. You can't tell these little children what to do. Why, you terrible teacher. And by the way, we're not going to be teaching them pronouns anymore. So what was her job? What is this woman's job if she's an English teacher? I don't know. Oh, and by the way, another thought here I'm going to interject into this conversation. You see people out there that seem to be saying all kinds of things, excuse me, that, it feels like they're genuine, right? They're doing the same thing as David Vost. They're telling the people, even Redacted, and I'll get to that in a second, which I love watching that, but it's mostly about two things: the war in Ukraine and the one thing we all know, that little thingy thing that happened, Well, all right, let's talk about Redacted just for a second here before I get to my point. Redacted, they are so serious and they're just explosive and they're just telling us all this truth. And it's like, oh man, I love it. But all you're going to get is the other side of the story about Ukraine. And maybe the, thingy. Now, you say, well, they must be great guys and they're telling it like it is and they're the good guys, but are they really? I mean, maybe. I'm not saying everybody's bad in the entire world. Somebody, hey, I'm out there telling people my mind, so, all right. But I just have to point out that the government wants misinformation for a long time, and then when that little thingy's over, part of the program is to let people wake up and realize how they've been raped, and there's nothing you can do about it. You see? In other words, you do the crime, and then you go to court, and you let things out, because you can't just go to court and say, well, it didn't happen. Well, we got pictures. Well, it didn't happen. Well, there's pictures, right? We've got eyewitnesses. Well, it just didn't happen. So what you do is you trot people out there that say, yes, I was there and it happened, but there was a great big reason that you don't understand. See, if Redacted really wanted to tell you the truth, they would tell you that there is a DPOPULATION thing going on, and they don't really talk about that. They almost like it's always giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. Well, you see, Bill Gates is just stupid. He's just an idiot. Or it's just all motivation. The motivation for all of this is money. That's not the motivation for this, guys. They want absolute control. And they want you dead. And so, yeah, there is a lot more to be told other than just these two talking points that people like Redacted and maybe Russell Brand or somebody, they all have their niche, right? Joe Rogan's going to tell you about aliens, right? They don't mind you knowing that because they're trying they're telling people the earth is flat. Like, nobody's ever believed this, but now, we're running around telling everybody the earth is flat. And by the way, there's aliens coming. There's no Jesus. Yeah, this is all new, right? But that don't make it right. Yeah, we've never believed that the earth was flat. And yet somehow or another, they've convinced all of you, like a religion, that now it is. We never believed in aliens. We believed in Jesus. We used to believe in Jesus. Now, people who teach Jesus, like Santos Bonacci, are running around saying, well, no, Jesus didn't really exist. But I'm going to teach you what the Bible really means. What does it really mean? Well, it's all within you, but there's no being. We're just going to, like, this new modern new age. It's like, all you do is sit in a corner and go, beat your head against a wall. And like in a trillion years, or if you just blank out your mind to where you just cease to exist, then that's what you really want, see? We got to stop existing. We don't want happiness. That's a bad thing. We want nirvana, but they don't tell anybody that nirvana in the Bhagavad Gita and these ancient teachings, it's really a trillion years of evolution. That's what it is. It's an age, like a Kali Yuga. And then there's a nirvana, which is an age of the universe that we're all going to be going through. So they don't understand what they're talking about. They're misrepresenting stuff. But even the little bits and pieces that they give us, these misrepresentations, they sound great because, when you're starving, any little morsel will do. But I digress. Take a look at the crew, right? On the top, I would say, I don't know. I mean, there's others. There's that Crowder guy or something. He's like all conservative. But just for instance, take Russell Brand. Now, I like him. And you go over there and he's got these big headlines and he's so, outspoken and he just tells it like it is. And you're like, wow, I guess they let him talk, right? Hang on now, just hold your horses. Because if you really notice, he talks about things like pollution, which, they don't mind that. He will say something, controversial, which is not controversial. Like, maybe we should love one another, okay, that's no big deal. I know you don't hear Hannity talking about the woes of capitalism or anything. But, so, he's a little better. But I noticed something. Everything that these guys talk about, the ones we like, Rush Limbaugh's and all this, let's watch the radio, Rush Limbaugh, he speaks it like it is. But what he's telling you is only the stuff that they will allow him to tell you. You notice they're not talking, the only person that kind of gets into it deep is like Alex Jones, and I still believe that they have made him out to be the crazy guy. That's the controlled opposition in a way far extreme truth, whereby they make him an example, they get rid of him off the platforms, punish him, take him to court, make it look like we and our righteous thoughts and our sanity, we're losing. Give up. We're taking you out. Don't speak out. That's what that's for. But as far as people like Russell Brand or Glenn Beck or whatever, they don't really get into stuff that they're not allowed to talk about. The real important stuff, like who's doing this to us? They never tell us who these people are. Well, they don't know that. They don't know. Well, I don't know how you could not know, at least after the last 60 years, that the CIA was established right after World War II, brought over here from Project Paperclip, and these idiots that were students of Aleister Crowley, who was of the Vril Society, and created this Ordo Templi Orientis, a sister occult along with Jehovah's Witness, the Watchtower Society and the Theosophical Society and all these different societies that they created in Hollywood. So they don't talk about, I mean, they'll expose the CIA and the FBI briefly. Well, they're bad. Okay, great. Thank you. You're on the same page with me. I think they're bad too. But do you explain to the people what is going on? Does anybody really get down to the bottom of any of this? I talk about the Bavarians. Guys, you really ought to support this channel because ain't nobody else talking about these Bavarians. And if we don't talk about it, then what? If we're not allowed to even, talk about what's bothering us or what's the problem, then we're never going to find the answers. And so, it makes you feel better with people like Russell Brand out there. He was with the Katy Perry, couple for a while. Come on, it's not like he's not connected. You think about it, or how about Kanye West, right? He's one of the Kardashians, for the love of Pete. Him and Bruce Jenner pulling it off. They're playing this. Oh, they're pulling the strings. Come on, Kanye West doesn't really say anything about Bavarians, right? He's like, he doesn't even know who these people are. He's like, I'm a Bavarian too. You know what? You're a Bavarian too? Why do you want to be a Bavarian? You see, even, Candace Owens, I love her. I love Kanye. Right? I like when Trump talks sometimes. And then I remember, oh yeah, he started the warp speed. Oh, he's the one that started the whole thing. Like, you guys, you got to understand that right now they're pretending to hate Trump. But what do you want to bet you? That one of two things either happens, and both of them are all planned. Either Trump comes out of this, unscathed, and is our next president, right? And all these clowns go down with big clown faces, upside down, and they go to the Epstein Island. And the one world government's ushered in, and we're all put under the law of Moses, and law and order triumphs. Or they're going to put somebody else. It's one of those, you gotta figure out what's under the little three cups, right? And they move them around. That little game they play, and you gotta figure out which way they're going next, right? To confuse you, get you off guard. Well, maybe they're gonna go with DeSantis. Or maybe they'll just go with Klaus Schwab, and he'll just come over here and, you will comply, and we'll just, be herded into the streets with tanks. And look, there's all kinds of ways they could do this. But I guarantee that whoever any of these players are, even if they're the supposed bad guys like Alex Jones, they're all in on it. And you know how I know? Because I've done anything actually wrong. That's why they're not taking me off of here. But yet, I am shadow banned so bad, I'm now down to like 500 people watching my videos. When I had millions, I guarantee, I just watched a program the other day with this guy that gets in his truck and camps in his, camp, all he does is do stupid things. It's not even really a good show. But every program, he gets 1 million clicks. Do you know why? Because he's not political. He didn't break any of their rules, right? And he's not telling you anything. It's just, basically anybody could go on YouTube and get 1 million clicks just looking at a dead stump, right? But if you start talking about anything like what we're doing here today, I bet you this video won't go over 1,000 clicks. And if it does go over that, it won't make over 1,500. I haven't had over 1,500 in a long time. I used to get thousands of people watching my videos. They have shadow banned me, I guarantee it. But, anyway, enough of that. But this gets better. So, the teacher, now, they give her name, and I'm not going to even, I'll just give her first name, Vivian. Okay? She's now suing the Jackson Memorial Middle School's principal and the Board of Education and 2 district employees. You see, this is where it gets really ridiculous, because it's not the principal or the Board of Education or the district employees that did any of this. They were about to lose their job too. This was, I don't know, George Soros or I don't know, who is it, Bill Gates that picked up a phone and said, all right, now I want all the schools to start acting like idiots and taking away the children, their brains and They're not going to learn any. By the way, kids don't go to school anymore, right? I mean, for 2 years, they weren't even allowed to go to school because we had, was a cold virus running around. Back when I was a kid, we had to go to school with whooping cough and strep throat and respiratory diseases and all this stuff. But no, we were all, mumps and measles were going through, chicken pox. People could die from that kind of stuff, right? But it didn't bother anybody. We had to go to school. I mean, life has been going on for thousands of years? And never in the history of man have we ever decided, well, okay, a couple of kids got the sniffles, so we're going to shut the whole school down. For a couple of years, right? Forget the flu season, the whole, couple of years. And I guess in some countries, they still haven't let them go back to school. I mean, we've changed the entire world now over some of this stuff. And it ain't over, right? This charade. The clowns are still down there at the school. I mean, how many of these weird, strange anomalies in human civilization today can we take? I mean, we went to 2 years of that thing. And now, how many years has it been now where they're organizing some, I don't know how to put this without getting, taken off the air here. But there's these little false, wavy things on a pole. Yeah. Where they're trying to drum up support for taking away the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. Let's put it that way. And this has been going on for a long time, and it just keeps coming on the news every day. Oh, down here at this school in Texas, right? All the kids had to get under their desks today, right? Over here in Wisconsin, Oh, now it's over here in California. Oh, now it's over here. Anything that this shadow government, whatever you want to call it, the devil that's running the world, whenever he wants something now, it used to be that the devil had to call you out to a fiddle contest. And like the devil went down to Georgia, because he thought he played the fiddle better than you. And if he could win that little contest, he'd take your soul, right? At least you had some sort of chance to win if you could play the fiddle, right? But nowadays, it's to the point where you ain't got no chance at all. They don't even allow fiddles in the school. But now, I guess, as soon as the baby's born in the hospital, the devil goes right in there and he takes a little rubber stamp and stamps the baby's butt, and he owns your kid. And, you'd think somebody would protest or say something, hey, I don't like this, but nobody even protests anymore. Like, I don't know, I mean, these things just get worse and worse. Like, how many years ago was it, like about in the 1870s or something, they started this thing with you had to sign a paper to get your kid out of the hospital? Oh, that child, we own that child. So as long as you put your signature there, admitting that we own your child from now on, of course we'll give you, if you want to just quit your job and lay around and do drugs, we'll pay for the education of your child, and we'll teach him all kinds of evil machinations. But if you don't want us to do that, then what you got to do is, you still have to sign the contract, and you still have to send him to school, but you will just protest and you could homeschool or if you really found a loophole in the law. And it's like, I was just thinking about this, like, remember what year did this begin when we started all this welfare, right? Everybody was going on welfare. In the inner cities, they just sat around and collected checks and popped out babies. And we're like, what's going on? And some people would try to say, if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. And we should just be feeding these people if they're not going to work. And others would be like, no, they can't find jobs. They've got children. There's daycare and it's too expensive. And we've got to help the people. What do you want them to starve? And we're thinking, that makes sense. But nobody ever said, wait a minute, where's all this money coming from? We're just feeding people. Well, it's overpopulation. There's a global warming is the problem, and we're going to let this go on for a few years, make everything crazy, start paying people to stay at home. And by the way, the only reason you'd be at home, right, is if you couldn't work. And one of the reasons they would give why you couldn't work is the poor people are depressed. It's psychological. It's a chemical imbalance. And they made this whole thing of 12 people sat around in a circle around a table. And they invented this thing called mental illness, right? And we've got medications and it's all diagnoses and they never came out right with the diagnosis. So you keep going back time after time after time until they find a drug that, boom, puts you out and you just lay around and drool. Then you can't protest anymore and go back and try and change your medications anymore because you don't even know who you are. But they started this thing, and why did they do it? Why was they just somehow so benevolent now, government? Why we just let the people have money and stay home? And us, a lot of us are like, no, I'm not going to take welfare. I'm going to go and work, right? We were always so poor and beat down and depressed that we ended up eventually having to go to the hospital and get medications. But, because if you did try to work, you really wouldn't be able to go very far. I mean, I could tell you a story about that. It was tough, and it's tough for a lot of people. This is why people are homeless. So they create the homelessness. They create society. That's the problem. And then they got the solution. What's the solution? Education, a better society, right? Giving people land so they can till the soil and grow food for themselves. No, that's not the solution. The solution is let's make these people lab rats. We'll put them in a little cage down the inner cities. We'll institute a thing called the CIA, which is the shadow government, and the FBI and the police that are running around trying to harass and destroy you. Right? Was it Nixon, 1972 or something, made the war on the people? I know it's called the war on drugs, but it's the war on the people is what it was. So now they're running around and they're sitting out at the end of the street in a cop car waiting for you to just do something illegal so they can put you in prison. So you no longer, forget not having rights. You don't even have existence in society anymore. You're going to be tortured the rest of your life. Why? Because the law. Well, what is the law? What did I do wrong? Well, you ingested some sort of herb. That's illegal. Can't have that. Now, if you would rather admit that you're crazy and go down here to the hospital, we'll give you the same, well, not the same. We'll give you some of these medications that will literally take you out, right? Just literally destroy your mind, soul, and body. And then we can make some more money off of you because you'll have to go to the hospital and have some procedure that is just going to torture you until you die and take all the money out of your bank account. So why did they start this welfare system? We're talking about what happened, like a couple years ago, they did this thing. It's like, this is crazy. This has never happened before. You don't remember 9/11? You don't remember Pearl Harbor? The Bay of Tonkin or whatever they call that got started with the Vietnam. All these, false, wavy little things on a pole that got us into worse and deeper problems, and this all came to a head to where now we had to have some kind of solution. And of course we couldn't come up with a solution because we were like rats in a cage and they were feeding us cheese. We didn't even know who we were, so they came up with a solution. All right? It's global warming. The planet's going to die because you idiots are running around crazy. We don't know why you're running around crazy. We don't have schools anymore, education. We're telling your children that they should go and have some operation to remember when they used to do lobotomies? They're still doing it. Half the population's had a lobotomy. It's a drug lobotomy. And so we don't even know who we are. I mean, we talk about votes. Everybody knows there's no voting. Well, how come there's so many Republicans that get voted in, right? And then there's Democrats. Well, obviously it's fair because they're both getting voted in. No, they make certain that it's a balance of power. You really think that Republicans are going to take over the House and the Senate? They have this all figured out. And they created welfare because, it's like offering, let's say you want to catch a squirrel, right? What do? Well, you offer them some food, some treats. How do you get the herd of sheep into the pen? You put some genetically modified corn. Well, it tastes good. They don't know it's going to kill them. And you fill up bags of grain and alfalfa and you put it in this little stall. The door, is open. And at first they come over and they smell it and they want in there, but they're cautious, right? They're cautious. Well, I don't know about this welfare. This doesn't seem like it might be right. Oh, well, we've got people, on the platform explaining the whole thing. We've got to be benevolent now. It's the 21st century and we've got to help the people. So here's some money. Oh, and you don't feel good? Well, here's some drugs. You know what? Why? They must be good people. They're trying to help us. They're giving us free apartments. Yeah, that little apartment is controlled by the city and it's monitored by the police. And they have people that they send in from the cartel to get you to try a little of this herb. And then they put you in prison the rest of your life. So you see, it's a real cheap way. Just a little bit of money. I mean, they don't mind how much it costs. I mean, they're funding an entire Ukrainian war right now. They don't care if it's billions of dollars. They'll purchase weapons of mass control and give it to the Taliban. Because you know what? The ISIS and the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda, they created it. Remember, the CIA and the KGB. Actually, the CIA is just a branch of the KGB. Friends, don't you understand? It's the Bavarian Illuminati that created all of these institutions around the world to lure the sheep into the pen for the slaughter. I rest my case. However, we're not done. But it's now to the point where they're just, forget the whole loophole in the law. But it's now got to the point where the devil's just decided to just come right out with it and just say, you know, we don't even care. We don't even want you in school. What we want you to do is go down into your basement, open up the window and jump out. Okay? On cue. At the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Now jump. Right? This is the way it is now. So, Gerarchy, a Christian, they even call her a Christian. Like, it's so important that we understand that this woman, who's an English teacher, who refuses to just allow these little punks to come into her classroom and throw some, tantrum. Now, they want to humiliate this woman by calling her a Christian. Oh, that's the worst thing you can call somebody, right? Oh, they were Christian. Oh, but hey, let's not worry about these 2 Satan worshipers that came in and tried to have an orgy in the classroom, right? That's fine. The problem is this darn Christian. She just wouldn't put up with it, trying to teach English to these kids and pronouns. This is terrible. We can't have this. So, as an English language arts teacher up until her resignation on August 26th, but this Christian worked at the school in Massillon, Ohio as an English language arts teacher up until her resignation on August the 26th before her departure. She taught her class while remaining consistent with her religious practices and scientific understanding concerning human identity, gender, and sex. You see how this article is wording this? They could have just said that she taught her class English, right? And she was a human being. But no, she's a Christian and she taught her class consistent with her religious practices. Really? Do you have to be a Christian to believe in biology, I mean, this is ridiculous. So, that's what the state federal lawsuit filed on Monday said. That's how they word it. About a week before she resigned, 2 of the students requested that she use names associated with their new gender, rather than being spoken to by their legal name. So I see, it doesn't even matter if it's legal anymore. They want you to do illegal things, right? If that's their name is legal, and you're going to use their legal name, but you're not allowed to do that anymore. You're being forced to use their preferred name. How old were these kids? Like, one was 5 and the other kid was 6, and they were telling the teacher what, their preferred gender? This is insane. So, one of the students wanted to be addressed by their preferred pronoun. And the lawsuit notes that the school had adopted a policy that required the teachers to be insane and to go against biology and science. And if they didn't do that, they would be promptly fired. See, that's how I would word it. But what they actually said was, the lawsuit notes that the school had adopted a policy that required teachers to use the preferred pronouns of students. Okay. because the request went against her religious belief. No, it wasn't her religious belief. I mean, this is what, because the woman's a Christian? What does that mean? She went to the Baptist church like twice last year, once on Easter Sunday and the other time was on Christmas Eve? I mean, this is just a human being that realizes that, like most normal people, that she believes in the Lord and she believes in biology and science and normal things, and that children should be taught appropriately in class. But no, look at how they're doing. I mean, look at do you guys, are you listening? Is anyone out there hearing what I'm saying? Because we're now at the level where the entire government is trying to torture us mentally, trying to drive human beings that are normal into craziness. I mean, how in the world these children feel compelled to be crazy and no longer, little kids decide what they want to believe, right? Oh, well, there's some doctor somewhere in Massachusetts that's declared this new teaching that girls are no longer girls. I mean, when did this happen? I mean, did Freud believe in this? Did Einstein believe in this? They got an altar to Einstein on the wall in the science classroom. His picture's up on the wall, and they light candles and they get down and kneel every morning at 6 to the great Einstein. And I don't even think Einstein would approve of this. But she met with the principal in hopes that she could reach a solution that would allow her to continue teaching without violating her religious beliefs and constitutional rights. And they've got that in parentheses, as if that is a literal quote from the woman. I doubt it. It might be a quote from the lawyer, but remember, you don't really have a lawyer. It's a state-appointed lawyer, and this entire thing's a charade. This whole thing's a charade. Right? It has nothing to do with somebody that wanted to have a lawsuit. I mean, the principal would never have done this. Right? Not 5 years ago, because the principal's probably a human being too. Might even believe in the Lord, right? But they're cowards. They're imbeciles. And the whole world is just crumbling under the pressure of this imbecilism that's coming down from the highest echelons of our shadow government. By the way, do you know that the CIA was created in 1947? You know why it was created in 1947? Because we lost the war to Germany in 1945. And they brought all these idiots over here in Project Paperclip, and they created a shadow government. It's called the CIA. And their main outreach arm is Hollywood. And and then they took over the religions by just infiltrating them, and now they're teaching your children to be idiots, all right? So she told the principal that she would not use the students' preferred pronouns. So during the meeting, this teacher was told she would be required to put her beliefs aside as a public servant, and that her unwillingness to do so would be insubordination, the suit says. Isn't that amazing? That you will be insubordinate for teaching English and proper pronouns when that's your job. See, I mean, this would be, this should be all over the news about how ridiculous this sounds, and everybody should be up in arms and picketing down at their courthouse over this. But the thing about it is nobody even knows this is going on, even though they're printing it, on your phone. You can read this or you can watch it on television, I guess, on any number of 158 million different channels. But instead of paying any attention to this, we're too busy taking selfies and sending them out to Facebook and TikTok. Right? I just put I just recently got a TikTok account, right? And I'm kind of thumbing through. I've never really been on there and took a look at it. And they've got this thing where it's like live, right? And you're like, oh, what is it live? Well, I clicked on one. It was this woman that she had, like, you could see her whole chest, but you couldn't see the, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on here, nipple, but you could see pretty much everything. And you were like, oh, and any minute she's going to take it off, right? But she never did, of course. But then I put my thumb on it and went like that to the screen, like whoosh, and another one came up. Now this was somebody in the middle of the dark in the snow. And he was breathing real heavy. He's, what's going on? And then you could tell he was acting, he's all panicked. And he's, who are you out there in the dark? And so I sat and watched for about 10 minutes wondering who in the world was out in the dark. And he was chasing, right, somewhere in Alaska or something. And he never found anybody. He was just running around. And I guess it just, the suspense was just kept people watching for hours as this idiot goes through the darkness with a flashlight doing this. And I guess I thought to myself, people must really be lonely right now with that bottle of whiskey and then they're, popping Xanax. And they're just, hey, what's going on, man? Oh, some guy in the woods, man. Oh, look at this one. Some lady's about to take off her coat. Well, I guess not. Well, let's just sit here and watch it while she mumbles something in the camera and I don't know. Was she making money off of this? I'm always thinking, what do they do? How do they make any money off of this? They're not monetized. There's no ads. And these people spend their entire life. There's one lady I noticed on here. I've been watching this for a week or so. This one lady is so dadgum funny. It's just about, oh my goodness, her little eyes go up and down and she'll like voice over these skits and stuff. And she is so funny. And I'm like, wait a minute. Tonight found myself watching like 5 or 6 of her little skits. I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. I'm getting off what am I doing? They got me scrolling through TikTok. This is what they're doing, guys. Talk about dumbing us down. They used to call it dumbing us down. We've been down to the point where now we're in, I don't know, what is it? We're like little drooling, drunk idiots sitting there. I don't even know how people have any money to pay their rent. They're all making money, taking pictures of themselves being fools, and we don't have schools, right? There's no schools anymore. There's no education, but we've got teachers and educators that are carrying out these charades, and the news media is running around taking pictures of all this charades that's going on in the school, public school. Meanwhile, we got World War III going on, and every day it's the same thing. I go on, and they're like, update on the war. Yep, World War III is just about to happen. It's imminent, and Russia's pretty mad now. They got their finger closer to the button, and Biden says, oh boy, old Putin, if you try it, we'll just take away all the oil from our people and all their rights too. Yeah, mess with us, will ya? We'll take Europe down. We'll just commit suicide. How do you like that? And we're like, oh man, Biden's an idiot. What are we going to do? Oh, there's just nothing we can do. Oh, here's a guy that, pretends that he's a sane guy. He might be able to fix the economy. And they're like, well, we're going to impeach him. Well, he's not president anymore. You can't impeach him. Well, we don't care. We'll impeach him as a human then. Of course, you have to understand this is all a charade too, right? Because, well, you'll have to watch my upcoming video that explains why that's a charade. But moving on here, the lawsuit says that minutes later, this teacher was pulled from the classroom and told to either change her mind or resign. See, again, I would never have resigned. I'd have said, fire me. Believing she had no other choice, she submitted a resignation letter. See, I don't even think this is real, because nobody in their right mind would resign. I would have put up a fight. I would have had a big knockdown drag out with him. Come on, man. Put up your dukes. Put up your dukes. This is ridiculous. People are just like, oh, well, okay. So the children get to tell the teachers what to do, and I'm not allowed to be an English teacher anymore, even though you're going to pay me for being an English teacher. But there's no school, so I'm going to go home and, open the window and jump out. Okay, yes, sir. Yeah, I'll resign if that's what you want me to do. Oh, boy. So the attorneys for this teacher argue in the lawsuit, yeah, trust me, these aren't her attorneys. These are the pretend, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on TV. Well, they did not explore other possible solutions such as moving her to another classroom or having her address students by their last names. The lawsuit also alleges that the policy is not fairly enforced and that the principal is allowed to avoid using pronouns entirely. Anyway, the Alliance Defending Freedom, which filed the lawsuit, said she should not have been put in a position to choose between her faith and her job. But you see, it's not choosing her faith. She's choosing sanity as against being an imbecile. That's what they should be writing here. See, that's why we're not getting it. Because you people are so stupid, you don't know how they're like messing with you. Just from reading their articles or watching their programs, they're standing there saying all of this. It's obfuscation, right? It's the whole, like, what has it been, 50, 60 years now of debating whether we should kill our children. Now we're like, oh, well, okay, I will consent that we're allowed to kill our children. However, I think we should wait at least 6 weeks before we do so. And now my colleague says that we ought to wait at least 9 or possibly 10 weeks. Right? Really? What are we talking about now? Like, anyway. Well, if you really want to think about it, there was remember that 2 years thing that that little thing where they were just like, going into the old folks' homes and they were just doing the little, well, it was kind of like, I don't know what I can say here without getting, taken off the air, but it's kind of like Auschwitz for the old folks, well, anyway. You know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and leave it there because this is just starting to turn my stomach and I don't know how much more I can even take it, guys, to be honest with you. Well, anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day and, this is David Vos and we'll see you guys tomorrow. May the Lord bless you. Have a good one.